This is the certificate for colour theory tutorial on how to change colours in Photoshop. So the first step, I asked you to create a small illustration that could be used later on for a repeat pattern for wrapping paper. So it doesn't really matter what colours you've used as long as you kind of avoid what this student's done, which is to have colours inside the object too close to the colours on the outside. So just try to avoid that. You can use, say, 3 colours and tints and shades of that colour, but do try to do what this one has done, which is you have a larger amount of the warmer colours and smaller amounts of a contrasting cool colour. So that'll work quite well when you go to change your colours for the different colour theory examples. So to begin with, you're going to need to open your window swatches. So we're going to need to have that open because we're going to be adding particular swatches to that. And we're going to need to go to the extensions option and open what's called Adobe Color Themes. Now this is the same kind of color theme tool is available on the Adobe.color website, and what they've done is they've integrated this as an extension into Photoshop. So it makes it very easy for us to use it this way. So find the Adobe Color Themes extension and open that. If you don't have this, you'll have to go to the Adobe.color website. And we're going to just have a look at this first. So you have a number of different colour rules available, and this is where we want to teach you how to use what you're learning about colour theory, how you would actually use this in a program like Photoshop, but obviously in other programs too. So it has, as presets, all the different kinds of colour combinations. So it has analgous, and you can see this tag in the centre is what we call our key colour. So by moving that around, and its little symbol, it's the one with the little tag symbol there, you can see that changes the key colour and the other ones change next to it as well. So you can have light and dark versions of the same colour, so it's tints and shades, darker and more saturated towards the edge of the circle, lighter tints as you move in. So you certainly can adjust the combinations that you're choosing by moving these in and out. So you pick your key colour, which is this one, and then drag it around the circle, and all those combinations are what we call analogous. They're next to each other on the colour wheel, which means that they'll work very harmoniously with each other. So when you find a set that you're quite happy with, you can just add them to your colour swatches by using this little symbol. It says add to colour swatches. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you'll see if I pull away Adobe schemes and just look at the swatches that those colours there have all just been added into your swatches. So they're there for you to use to change the colours here. Now there are several different ways of changing the colours. I'm just going to show you one particular way, and then I'll probably do some other ways in another tutorial. So let's begin with this one because this is the easiest. So to select the colour to change, you need to use your eyedropper and come along, and when you click in the swatches, you'll see that that colour you've selected becomes the foreground colour. So that's the colour that's going to be applied. Now we have another tool here which is called the colour replacement tool. That's the one we're going to have a go at. It paints the selected colour over an existing colour. So to find that tool, if you control click, you'll see that it just sits under the brush tool. So instead of painting with the tool, we could just paint the colour in there with the normal paintbrush, but we're going to actually use this one. The advantage of using this is that it does actually give you a really nice way of preserving the colours. So just check in your layers palette. Oh, sorry, we don't want all these because that'll be confusing. I'll just delete those. And we're just going to work on that background. So you can see that I'm now just going to paint over that colour, and you can see that it is keeping all the lovely watercolour textures. So that's the advantage of using this replace colour tool. So you just have to spend a little bit of time painting it in. Now you can see that I'm accidentally sort of rubbing into other areas. So to avoid that, what you could do is make a selection of the colour you want to change using the magic wand tool. So that'll select similar colours, and so I'll just go and get that first. And you can increase the tolerance to select more, or just hold down the shift key and just keep selecting. You see that's done a pretty good job of getting most of my background colour there. So if that works for you, try that magic wand tool and just increase or decrease the tolerance. Remember, smaller numbers in tolerance mean that fewer similar shades of colour will be selected. The more you increase the tolerance, the more related shades of colour will be selected. So now it'll be a lot easier for me to just do a nice big, this will be a lot faster because I'm not worried about accidentally selecting bits and pieces of the fish. I'm just going to very quickly be able to do the background. Use the hand tool if you need to move it around and so on. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And it's not an exact colour. If we want an exact colour, then that's a different method, and I will show you how to do that. I would make a new layer, and then I can actually paint bucket that exact colour in. So you can see that will work very well if I do a new layer, but I don't get to keep the texture. I could play with the opacity or the overlay mode, and I'll get something a little bit similar. So you could try that. So you could put a solid colour in and then set it to overlay and see what it does for you. That's the other way you could do it. Otherwise, I'll turn that off, and you can see that's a slightly stronger version of the colour, so that's pretty good. So either way is fine as long as you're changing the colours to represent the new colour set that you're working with. So I'll Command D to deselect that, and then I've got to go along and I've got to make some decisions about what other areas I want to colour. So I want to get rid of all the yellows and really replace them with the pink, I think. I think I might go for the pink, or I could go for the light blue. Maybe I'll go for the light blue and see what that does. So a little bit of experimenting. So again, I need my magic wand tool and hold down the shift key to select other examples of that. And you'll need to keep clicking. So sometimes it doesn't get all of the colour. So something like that. Keep clicking till you see that it's got most of the colour. Just move that out of the way so you can see a bit better what I'm doing. And I need the tail and so on. And now I've got my colours still in swatches here. So if I decide to do the blue, let's see how that goes. So that's my replace colour tool again. And there it goes. So it is overlaying it a little bit. You can see that it's slightly darker than the version that's there. But nevertheless, it's still going to be an analogous colour. That's colours next to each other. Whereas the yellow is completely opposite. So that I've got to get rid of that. So Command D that. Or if you decide you prefer a solid colour, make a new layer and you could paint bucket that in, and you can see that's much closer to that colour. And if you want the texture of the paper, go to overlay, and then you'll get the texture as well. So these are things I can decide. I can turn them on and off, those layers, depending on what effect that I want. So it depends whether you like that softer kind of direct replacement tool, or whether you want to paint bucket it onto a new layer. Either technique is fine. Just depends what you want. So let's go back. No, I did forget the eye there. So now I'm on to my next colour. So Command D, deselect. And then you can see I've got to stick with these colours, and I haven't got there yet. I've got all this yellow I've got to remove. So same thing again, use the magic wand, and I should be able to shift select and get all the yellow in the image. And I may decide I want to use some of the dark yellow as well. So I might decide I want to do all of these at once because they're all way too wrong for this composition. Or you might want to change those individual areas. Just depends on the drawing. But you can see what I mean about saving yourself some time if you make sure that the inside of the object is quite separate to the background. They don't share colours. That'll make your life a lot easier. So I could do something like this and include the dark colours and just see what happens. Get that pink. Go for my direct... Oh, and away we go. So now what's nice about this is it is getting those different shades of the colour because that's what I had in my original painting. And there we have it. That's pretty much all I need to do. And there's my analgous. Okay, there's a few little details I've missed there, so I'd have to kind of Command D and redo them. Or, as I said before, you can make a new layer if you prefer, and dump that colour for a stronger effect, but you notice you don't get the shades. That's the difference. It's not as subtle, but you could try overlay and see if you're happy with that. Now, whichever version of this I want, if I say I decide I want the darker on the background, great, I could do that. And what I've got is an analogous colour composition, so now it's time to save it. So Command D. So once I'm kind of happy with that, and I can experiment, do I want the lighter version? Maybe I do. And I can even take the opacity slider down a little bit to allow a little bit more of the underneath blue layer to show through. So I could experiment a little bit with that. I'm pretty happy with that. So I've used a little bit of the paint bucket method and a lot of that replace colour method down there. Either's fine or both. But what I do need to do now is save this, and I want to apply these changes so I can actually just merge this. So if you go to merge layers, it'll either select merge visible. Then we've just got one image, and at this point you just want to go File, Save As, and you want to save, this is what you're going to be handing into me, you want to save this as analogous colours. So you'll be handing in a whole bunch of these, one for each. And so I haven't destroyed my original image. In fact, I can go back using my history palette because I've changed this to the original name. So I've still got my original sample colour rules, this one. Okay, there it is. So I'm back to that. But I've got the one that I saved there. Yeah. So you've got to save it with a new name, the name of the colour scheme, rather than doing them on different layers. You'll just get confused. A couple of students tried to do that last time and it was just not successful. So save it as a new image and call it analogous colour. And now we're on to our next one. So let's go back to our Adobe colour themes again. And I will just hold on for a second, guys. This is what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to try and put them all into the one document. It's just going to get confusing for you. So just start off with your image only. It'll be a lot easier for you that way. So it's just like that. And now we want to have a look at our colour rules. Close the history. So if I've accidentally closed that, I can reopen it, but I've actually got it sitting there. So let's go to Adobe Colour Themes. And what have we got? We've done analogous, so now we need to move on to our next colour rule. We could do monochromatic, but I might move on to complementary opposite, just because it's a bit stronger, it's a bit easier to see what I'm doing. So let's go, say I want to do reds and greens. That's a really strong complementary opposite. I could do fire engine red, or I could pick a more kind of subdued red. Remember, we're going to go more pastel-y as we go to the center, so we could redo this all with this set of colours, and they're still complementary opposite, but a lot softer because they're all tints. So you can really play around and create a very original version of this. Okay, and so your complementary opposite could be a lot softer. So whichever one you want to use, whichever set you want to use, wherever you're moving on the colour wheel, you're going to get a set of opposite colours to work with. And then you can play around with which versions of that. So it's only 2 colours, but you can see there's some lovely shades and tints of each that you could play with. Okay, so there's an interesting set I've got now. So let's go and try changing these ones and see what happens with it. Remember that you've got to add them to your swatches so they turn up here, and then from there you'll be able to go and select them. So same thing as before, you could do the change colour there directly, but again I would suggest that you practice. It's good for you to practice your selections anyway. So magic wand is good, as we established before, and hold down your shift key, and that's pretty good for my background with a tolerance of 60. I'm getting lots, and now I can go for it and use that select tool, change colour tool. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a bit lighter than I'd expected, simply because it is kind of doing it in overlay mode. So if I want to have the option of the solid version, make a new layer and then get that paint bucket tool and try dumping it. See how that's really solid? You might prefer the solid, just like that. That's fine. It's totally your preference. Or if you've got a lovely texture you want to keep, you might prefer to try that overlay mode. So yeah, we're getting something interesting, and it's definitely changed it. And now let's go deselect and maybe do some of the other colours in there. So let's try selecting the green, because we think, and remember you've got to be on the background layer. If we have a look at the green, I'll just go get that. I'm going to do it pretty roughly because I don't want to spend all day on it. It's already a complementary opposite actually, but we're just changing it to something more specific. So this particular green instead, and away you go, and there it is, kind of a fire engine-y one. And obviously you want to spend a little bit more time with your making selections. So I'm pretty happy with that. Command D to deselect. I forgot my eye in there, so I probably want to do that and change that. Deselect, not bad. Now the yellow, I'm probably going to change to that lighter green, because I think it's a more sympathetic change. So again, select all your yellows, and we could go yellow or green in there, or just try the whole thing. I think because there's tonal variety in there, this one I'll just let the existing tones be used, and then just see what happens with it, see what it looks like. So I'll include those as well. Okay, when I'm happy with it, select the one I want to use and go to that. Yeah, so we've just got a nice light green, and it is changing those. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe I missed a couple of bits, so I could go back and spend a bit more time on it if it wasn't a tutorial. But hopefully you're getting the idea that all of those colours are being changed. And the other technique I could use if I wanted to is that I could make a new layer again, and I could dump the solid colour in, but see how it loses the detail? But then, okay, put it onto overlay mode and see what it looks like. I'm not so happy with that. So for this one, I think I'm quite happy with just the change colour on the background. So that's pretty good. That's these complementary opposites. If you wanted to perhaps have some pink, that's where you might, you know, I might have decided in here, for example, to make these particular ones pink instead. So I had a bit more variety. But that's a complementary opposite scheme. I'm quite happy with that. And I can flatten it again. So you select all the visible layers. Well, actually I'll ditch that one because I decided I don't want to use it, but I do want that one. So then just merge the visible and you'll just end up with one layer. But it's very important you don't just save. Otherwise you'll have ruined your original. So do save as, and this one we know is complementary opposites. Okay, and so you'll save that. And then you can reopen your original. Open recent, my original image. Keep track of that. Oh, sorry, that's a different one. But you can see this is someone else's. We could do the same with this one. It really just depends on what you've done as your original drawing. Watercolors, as you can see, can work really quite well. Oh, it's this one, sample original. So as long as I don't do save, if I do save, I'm going to wreck this original. I've got to keep this original one, so always do save as. So hopefully by now you're getting the hang of it. And then you come back here again and we might do triadic. So triadic is 3. And remember that's your key colour. So if you don't want to use that as your key colour, you can change that to anything. Okay, so there's all these different combinations and your personal preference will come in to that. And then you just repeat the whole process with these 3 colours and so on until you've done all the different combinations. Down here when you get to shades, that's a really good one to do, and you're just picking, it's really the same as monochromatic, and you just pick one colour and then you do shades of it. And you can look at your monochromatic, so that is going to be tints and shades of one colour. So you'll have a bit of fun with that. Again, this will come down to personal preference, what you actually like. You can make that key colour anything you like, and then you're going to get these lovely tints and shades. Whereas with shades, you're just going to get all the darker ones. So they're slightly different. Custom, I would get you to have a look at this, and you could use this to do, instead of the complementary opposite, you could do the split complementary. So split complementary is just 3 colours. So move that back around to, you know, shades. And it's, instead of the direct opposite, it's the 2 colours either side. So again, sort of pick your key colour, and then instead of directly opposite, it's the 2 on either side, if that makes sense. So you have to fiddle with that one a little bit, but try and make this the custom one, the split complementary. So there's complementary, directly opposite. Split complementary is 2 colours, one on one key colour and then one on either side. So that's it, folks. See how you go with it. But I'm expecting that, I'll just close that because that'll confuse you. I'm just expecting that you're going to have several of these. So we've got analogous that we did, and we've got complementary. So you'll have a set. You'll have analogous, monochromatic, triadic, complementary. Compound is like 4 colours. So it's 2 pairs of complementary opposites for that one. So you might need a little bit of extra help with that and with the split complementary. So instead of 1 set of complementary opposites, you use 2 for compound. And then shades, and then custom would be the split complementary. So we'll talk about those other ones further, but at least start getting these ones done and just practicing the techniques. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.